The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban street. The heat of the day had begun to fade, leaving behind the soft hum of cicadas and the distant chatter of families settling into their evening routines. An elderly man stepped out of a small grocery store, his posture slightly hunched but his steps steady. James Carter. A decorated war veteran. A man who had given decades of his life to serving his country, only to return home and find himself treated as if his sacrifices no longer mattered. His worn military jacket, adorned with a few carefully pinned medals, clung to his lean frame. His hands, scarred, calloused, gripped a paper grocery bag filled with simple necessities: bread, milk, canned soup. He wasn't expecting trouble. He was just another old man, making his way home. But trouble was expecting him. Just as James reached his car, the sharp blare of a police siren shattered the peaceful evening. A patrol car screeched to a stop just feet away, its flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the metal of James's old sedan. The door flew open, and out stepped a uniformed officer. His name tag read Officer Reynolds. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a stiff, authoritative stance. His right hand hovered near his holster, not quite reaching for his weapon, but making sure it was seen. "You!" Reynolds barked. "Step away from the vehicle." James turned slowly, his expression calm but questioning. "Evening, officer," he said, his voice steady. "Is there a problem?" Reynolds narrowed his eyes, scanning James from head to toe. "We got reports of suspicious activity in this area. Someone matching your description has been seen loitering." James frowned. "I live 2 blocks from here. I just bought some groceries." He lifted the bag slightly, as if the simple act of purchasing food might prove his innocence. But Reynolds wasn't interested in explanations. "I said, step away from the vehicle." James exhaled slowly. He had faced down enemy soldiers, endured nights of freezing cold in foreign lands, watched his friends fall in battle. But here he was, an old man on American soil, being treated like a criminal for simply existing. Without argument, he set his grocery bag on the hood of the car and raised his hands slightly. "I don't want any trouble." But trouble had already arrived. Reynolds stepped forward, grabbing James's wrist roughly. The veteran winced. "What are you doing?" The officer ignored him. "Do you have any weapons on you?" James shook his head. "Just my wallet and my house keys." Reynolds smirked. "Funny. That's what they all say." Before James could react, Reynolds shoved him against the car. The groceries tumbled to the ground, a loaf of bread rolling into the gutter, a can of soup clattering loudly against the pavement. James gasped as his chest hit the metal, his old bones aching from the impact. "Resisting, huh?" Reynolds muttered. "Maybe I should bring you in. Let you cool off in a cell." That's when another voice cut through the night. "Get your hands off my father." A young man was sprinting down the sidewalk, eyes blazing with fury. David Carter. James's son. A rising star in law school, fiercely intelligent, and deeply protective of his father. He had just arrived home from studying when he saw the flashing lights outside and recognized his father's car. His heart dropped. Now, he stood just feet away from the scene, fists clenched, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Reynolds turned lazily, unimpressed. "Stay out of this, kid." David didn't back down. "You're detaining him for no reason. You're harassing an innocent man." Reynolds scoffed. He was acting suspicious. David took another step forward. "Suspicious how? By walking to his car with a bag of groceries? Or is it just because he's a black man in a good neighborhood?" Several people had stopped to watch. Some whispered among themselves. Others pulled out their phones. Reynolds's jaw tightened. This wasn't going the way he expected. My father is a decorated Marine, David continued, his voice unwavering. And you're treating him like a criminal for absolutely no reason. James, still pressed against the car, lifted his gaze to his son. He saw the fire in David's eyes. The unshakable confidence. The absolute refusal to be silenced. It reminded him of himself, decades ago, standing tall in the face of injustice. Reynolds glanced at the cameras. His authority, his career, was suddenly at stake. He let go of James. "You're free to go," he muttered. But David wasn't done. "No," he said sharply. "Apologize." Reynolds turned fully now, eyes flashing. "Excuse me?" "You humiliated my father in public," David said, voice steady but firm. "You knocked his groceries to the ground. You slammed him against his own car. Apologize." The small crowd murmured in agreement. Reynolds looked around, realizing the weight of the moment. Phones were still recording. If this got out, he wouldn't just be facing a complaint, he could lose everything. His pride battled against self-preservation. Then, through clenched teeth, he muttered, "I'm sorry." James straightened his back, his military posture returning. He stared directly into Reynolds's eyes and said, "Respect is earned. Not forced." Then, he turned to David. A silent exchange passed between them, pride, gratitude, love. The father and son walked away together. But the story wasn't over. That night, David took action. Using his knowledge of the law, he filed an official complaint against Reynolds. The video footage spread online like wildfire. Within days, the police department was forced to launch an internal investigation. Reynolds was suspended indefinitely. But the real victory? James Carter, a man who had fought for his country, endured battlefields, defended the freedoms of others, finally received the respect he deserved. Not because he demanded it. Not because he used force. But because his son, a new kind of warrior, stood up for justice. And Officer Reynolds? He learned a hard lesson that day. Power can be misused. But justice, when fought for, will always prevail. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps us share these powerful stories. Have you ever witnessed a moment like this? Let us know in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going.